Obviously this is a great day across the country in the sense that millions of workers are out protesting against the cuts in their living standards. The fact is that the political situation is such that we must channel and champion our interests. Just to talk about the union ballot results, GMB 83.7% for strike action, NSUW 82% for the strike action, UCAT 83% for strike action, UCU has also already a mandate. So that just shows you the strength of support from union members. In terms of the issue of pensions, we do have a pension crisis in this country, but it's not because we are living too long or that our pensions are unaffordable. It's a crisis of fairness, where workers are being made to pay for banker speculation, whilst the top 1% of society, which includes the bankers and the 23 millionaires in the government cabinet, are getting away with the real gold-plated pensions.
I'm a public sector worker and I pay into the NHS pension scheme. I belong to the British Association of Occupational Therapists and I am a Unison member. I have never taken strike action since I started employment in either the private sector, as I did when I first started, or now the public sector where I currently work. I am also a wife and a mother. 2/3 of my family work in the public sector and the final third is being educated by the public sector. My husband and I wrangled over whether to strike today and indeed had a very sleepless night. But this government is affecting the whole of my household, not just for one night, but for many years to come. Next month, the bankers will be paying themselves £4 billion in bonuses, but not a penny from that is coming to help pay the deficit, but plenty from us. The average pension for a woman in the NHS is going to be £67 a week, and for somebody in the local government, £53 a week. If you're a FTSE director, you're going to get £4,000 a week. Unison believes that everybody deserves a fair pension, no matter what sector they work in. As a therapist, I work with people looking at their long-term goals, and I feel the government has not had the foresight to consider the long-term issues they're trying to impose on us. I am worried for my family and anyone out there who has a family. If we are working till we are 68, where are the jobs going to come from for my children, your children and our grandchildren? All we are asking for is fairness, not just for us, but for the people who aren't in public sector schemes. The government say that private sector pensions aren't as good, but making it worse for cleaners, teachers and council workers isn't going to help. What the government should be doing is getting private sector employers to make sure fair contribution for their workforce and not leave the taxpayers to pick up the bill. I'm sorry, but we do not want to pay more, work longer and get less.
Okay, we've got good news for everybody. We're rich. This country is amazingly rich. We're twice as rich as we were in 1979 and many, many times richer than we were in 1948 when they set up the NHS. Over the last 10 years, we got 20% richer. Now, I doubt if any of you have seen that improvement in wealth, because while the fat cats are having 50% increases in their wages, on top of their over £4 million income that they get every year, most people, probably their wage increases haven't even met the rate of inflation. And also, when you talk about the big corporations, they're also making massive profits. Their profit margins are going up now. They're making more and more money. The London Stock Exchange, their profits have almost doubled in the last few months. And why? Because they're lending money to the Italian government at much higher rates. When they talk about bailing out Greece or bailing out Italy, they're not. Not a penny of that money is going to the Greek people. It's all going to the bankers in Spain and this country. And because our wages are not increasing, what we had to do? We've had to borrow money. So the level of debt, personal debt, household debt in this country is skyrocketed. £8,000 per household is the average debt, excluding mortgages now. And what rate are we paying? 10%, 18%, 20%. The banks are borrowing it at almost 0%. They're cutting corporation tax. Before 1979, they used to pay 55% tax on their profits. And now they're cutting it to 28% and eventually to 23%. And it's not just the corporations who are tax scroungers. Most of us, if we sold, we pay 20% tax, we pay 20% tax. If you're a millionaire, 30% of their income they don't pay tax on. They're lucky. They've got good friends like George Osborne in Parliament allowing them to get away with this. I'm going to be now looked at as some mad fanatical class war anarchists when I say what we need to do. We need to make sure the rich pay their share of the taxes. We need to increase, have a more equal distribution as well. Otherwise, we're heading back to levels of inequality not seen since Victorian times. Right. And how did we get out of those levels of decanting inequality? We organised, we organised and we organised. We went on strike, we occupied, and if you think that we got the NHS because nice Mr Beveridge thought he'd do something nice to the poor, you're wrong. It's probably best summed up by Tory MP Quinton Hogg in 1943, who said, if we don't give them social reform, they'll give us revolution.
After 30 years as a low-paid manual worker, I was a council gardener, I get £2,500 a year as my pension, my local authority pension. I worked in the public sector believing that what I was doing was giving a service to the public. First of all, we were all got rid of because of privatisation and made to work really hard for nothing. And then I retired and got a very poor pension. Now I'm absolutely delighted that GMB, which represents in the large part poorly paid manual workers, schools, support staff, kitchen staff, cleaners and people such as that, local government gardeners, dustbin men, street sweepers, none of whom are earning a fortune. 82% of those people were willing to give up a day's pay to support this strike. Now that shows some anger. This money that they want to take off us, it's not going to the government, it's not going to make our pensions better, it's not going to make our lives better, it's to go to the bankers. And that's all. And where these greedy people have taken all this money and are still paying themselves huge amounts of money in bonuses, and they want us, the poorest of the workers, to pay for them. And it is outrageous.
There are two things I want to make the point of, which I'm sure you all have heard the arguments many times before. One is, we're not followers of Tina. By Tina I mean, there is no alternative. This is what they always say, there is no alternative, there is no extra money. We're all followers of Tina now. Well, I think this shows that there are many people who think there is a bloody alternative. There are many people in Greece and many people in Egypt who think there is an alternative. There's a different way of organising society. I think the same we can say about the Occupy movement that's gone around the world, where they say, we are the 99%, we are the majority. This is how we need to radically rearrange the world, rearrange how society is organised. Because if after the Second World War, and I'll repeat that, underlined the Second World War, right, in 1945, how could Britain build an NHS, build council housing, have a welfare state, and now, with no World War, they can't afford it? Why is that? Why is it? Because there is a bigger gap that is growing and growing between the richest and the poorest in society. And this shows that there is an alternative, and this is just one example of hundreds and hundreds around the country. Anybody who's seen some of the news already, the Tories don't like this. They are scared of this, right? This is the power that we can show to change society for the better. Now, if there is if we are all, as we are told, in the same boat together, if we are all in the same boat together, then there's many people who are rowing like mad to keep it going, and there's two very large people in the front who are sitting back, taking in the scenery, and occasionally throwing out a couple of the rowers. That's what in all in the same boat together means. If David Cameron talks about the big society, this is the big society. This is the real big society.